All right, so I want to welcome everyone to our webinar, How to Sell More Online with Constant Contact's Ecommerce Pro. Thank you so much for joining us today. To get the best results possible for e-commerce businesses, that means getting the right products in front of the right customers at the right times. And that's really always been the secret to increasing your sales. Plain and simple, those that focus on doing that are able to sell more than those who do not. Now, the real problem with that lies is it's not so simple in execution. That's because every customer is different. They have differing needs and preferences with your business. And then you add on the fact that you have a large selection of products. It becomes increasingly difficult and time-consuming to plan and send email marketing campaigns that get you the best results possible, especially when you have so many other things to do as a small business. And that tends to mean you end up leaving some money on the table. But what if you could eliminate those time-consuming aspects of email marketing and still get great results? That means no more creating lists, complicated flows, sifting through data and really not knowing what to do with it in the first place, and no more feeling like you're not doing everything you can to sell more. And that's where Constant Contact's Ecommerce Pro really comes into play. I'm going to go ahead and play a quick video here, and that'll give you a little preview of what we're going to be talking about today.
Is your business all about selling online? Want to sell a whole lot more? It starts with giving your customers more of what they want. And we've got just the thing to help you do it. Introducing Ecommerce Pro from Constant Contact, the first ever e-commerce marketing automation platform to use artificial intelligence to predict exactly what your customers want, so you can quickly and easily target them with the right email message at just the right time, every time. Ecommerce Pro's AI technology does the busy work for you, automatically testing and choosing the best performing subject lines, email content, delivery times, product recommendations, and more. The result? More clicks, more opens, and more purchases, 45% more. The secret is in Ecommerce Pro's seamless integration with your favorite platforms to get all your data in one place. Our AI then slices and dices that data into segments to target your marketing and drive better engagement. Ecommerce Pro even comes with pre-built automation workflows to ensure your emails get to the right prospects or customers, no matter where they are in their buying journey. And each email is optimized for an individual recipient based on AI insights. With Ecommerce Pro, you can easily track campaign performance, individual buyer preferences, and predicted trends, all in a user-friendly interface. Plus, you'll get all the personal coaching and support that Constant Contact is famous for, and so much more. To get all the details on this game-changing platform, schedule a live Ecommerce Pro demo today.
Pretty cool technology, right? Well, with that in mind, let's go ahead and see more specifically what we're going to be talking about in today's webinar. We're going to start by talking about the future of email marketing and what that means, why you need to change your approach in order to sell more, and lastly, we'll be talking about how Constant Contact's Ecommerce Pro features really save you time by targeting, personalizing, and automating your messages to the right people at the right times, ultimately helping you to sell more. Now, before we get into all of the details, allow me to introduce myself a little bit more formally. My name is Stephanie French, and I'm the content manager for webinars here at Constant Contact. I'm well-versed in email and online marketing, and I'm also happy to introduce Matt Hasso, and he's going to be hopping on a little bit later during our Q&A session, and he's going to help us to answer all of your questions about Constant Contact's Ecommerce Pro features. So be sure to send them in along the way. All right, so let's dive in and talk about the future of email marketing. Now, if you've joined some of our most recent webinars, you'll actually notice that we've talked about some of the different stages that an email marketer goes through. And we'll talk about each of these in a little bit more detail in just a minute. But when you start out with email marketing, you're likely just getting your feet wet, and you start out by doing some basics. Later, when you feel more comfortable, you're ready to improve your results and really take that next step. And then later, you really work to optimize your email marketing results, which is over here on the right. And that's ultimately what we're talking about today. Now, if you're just getting started, let's talk about that in a little bit more detail. You're likely sending those regular newsletters and promotions to your entire list at the same time. Now, when we've asked our audience in the past for these webinars, We know that this is where so many of you already are, and that's okay, that's good. You just want to make sure that you're implementing important foundational elements that help to drive your success. And what does that mean? Those foundational elements mean a few things. First and foremost, sending promotional and non-promotional emails. Those non-promotional emails really add value to your email strategy and allow you to share your expertise with your audience. This also allows you to have some variety in your strategy that keeps people interested and engaged, because no one likes to be sold to all the time. And then we've got promotional emails. These are when you're sending these, we suggest you keep these simple and focused and really focus on driving one action, one click in there. All too often I see a long, complex newsletter or email with multiple articles or even links that distract people from what you really want them to do in the end, which is buy your product, right? And also frequency is going to be important here too. You want to send it a frequency that really works for your business and your audience. And I know this is a really popular question we get, so I just want to see from the audience who's here today how often you're already sending. So give me a moment to launch a poll on your screen. For some reason, there seems to be a delay when I have to click something. All right, so you should be seeing a poll on your screen here. And if you could tell me how often you're currently sending emails to your subscribers now. Is it once a day, once a week, once or twice a month, once every couple of months, or maybe once or twice a year? I'd love to see your answers on who all's attending today. Give everyone just a minute to choose your answer there. Again, the answers are once a day, once a week, once or twice a month, once every couple of months, or once or twice a year. All right. So I see 100% of you are currently who've voted are saying once or twice a month. Now I'm seeing a couple people are saying once every couple of months. Give everyone a couple more minutes. Now I see 67% have voted. If we could get a few more people to put in their answer there, that would be awesome. Those percentages are kind of toggling there. Right now we're at 71% once or twice, and then tied out once every couple of months after that, and then once a week. All right, so we're almost at 80%. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and share the results on the screen. So that's actually about what I expected to see there. Once or twice a month being the most popular answer, once a week after that, and then once every couple of months. Really, once a month is what we suggest there. So let me go ahead and hide the poll and make sure my visuals are still showing up there. All right, yes. So once a month is what we typically recommend that you send. This ensures that you're sending at a frequency where people won't forget about you and they're going to be more receptive to your emails. Because if you're sending, multiple months in between your email campaigns, there's a chance you've got people in there that are going to be surprised when they receive your email in their inbox. They may have forgotten who you are, that they signed up, and they're likely to mark your email as spam, just simply unsubscribe or even delete, none of which we want to happen to your emails. We want them to open and pay attention. Now, once you're ready to take that next step and really improve your results, it's important to note that the frequency might actually change a little bit as you start doing some of the things in this stage as well. This is where you want to start segmenting your list to send targeted, relevant information and even automating some emails that help to save you time, and that's going to be awesome for you. Now, segmentation is good. It's so much better than blasting your information to your entire list at the same time. Because like I said, people have different needs and interests with your company. And for those of you who are in this new category, usually in the starting position, segmentation really means grouping like contacts together so that you can send them relevant products and content. You might segment based off of demographic information such as gender, geographic information like their city, their state, zip code, or even country if you're an international shipper. And my favorites are segmenting by their behaviors and their actions, because the links they click on in the email or the products they purchase on your site, that's really telling you something about what they're interested in receiving. Now, once you've segmented your list, you're ready to cater relevant messages to each of those groups. And this is a popular question I get all the time. Well, how do I improve my email marketing results? Really, it starts in the second step where you're segmenting your list. That means when they receive relevant information, they're going to be more likely to open, pay attention, and actually take the action you want them to take in the end anyway. And then after this process of segmentation, you can add on another layer here to save time by automating emails that you send to new contacts all the time. Those are things like your welcome emails to engage people right after they sign up to your mailing list, abandoned cart emails, which most of you are probably familiar with, at least from the consumer side. And those help you to close more sales. And also a series of emails that can help you to further educate your audience, encourage sales, or simply even onboard new customers and set them up for success with your products or services. And then don't forget about birthday and anniversary emails, because these can be helpful for you as well. These types of emails can help you to build loyalty, which means people come back and buy from you again and again, because that's allowing you to show your appreciation and simply make your customers feel special. And that's something we all like. Now, all of this is great, and it's really a great way to take the next step and improve your results. But really, there is this next best option that helps you to take it all to the next level. The thing is, if you're still sending to groups or segments, you may actually be hurting your business by sending the wrong messages at the wrong times to the wrong people. Now, this is where you can take all of those foundational elements that we've talked about up until this point and start to treat contacts as individuals. And that means you send personalized product recommendations and content so that it's relevant to every subscriber at the specific time that they're in their journey with you. That also means taking data from your email marketing based on the actions or even inactions of your subscriber. So in the future of email or the next best level, that means taking the guesswork out of using important data that you're getting from your subscribers and the actions, and using AI or artificial intelligence. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about AI. That AI helps you to improve your results, ultimately helping you to sell more online. And all of that means you're using predictive analytics and automation to treat those contacts like the individuals they are, really saving yourself some time and some effort in the process. Now, really all of that starts to bring up the question, well, why do I really need to change my approach in order to sell more? So let's talk about that next. As I said before, the best level of email marketing is where you're communicating on that individual level. Because every subscriber is different, as I've said a few times, new subscribers are surely different from someone who's been with your business for a while and made several purchases. And they're even different from someone who's been subscribed to your list for a while but never even made a purchase with you. The thing is, the content and the information that's going to keep people engaged and trigger them to take an action and make a purchase is going to be different for every single person on your list. They're going to require different things at different times too. And of course, as their journey with your company goes on, their habits are going to change. Now, ultimately, this means we want to put the right products and content in front of the right people at the right time. And ultimately, that means sending at the right frequency for each person. So that popular question we get of how often should I be sending, it's going to vary based on where people are at with you. Now, I know a lot of you are probably wondering, well, what does that mean for real businesses and the customers who would receive emails if I'm sending on an individual level? Let's take a look at an example of a company that sells coffee online. One thing we know is that people consume coffee at different rates. In my household, we can consume a bag of coffee in 1 or 2 weeks, and then some people are going to take longer. They're going to take a month or 2 to finish that bag of coffee. So ideally, we want to remind people to reorder their coffee before they run out. Again, that timing is going to be different for each person or family. So we want to send an email like this buy again email in order to remind them to buy again at just the right time for each individual person. Now, another scenario here is, let's say this customer puts a bag of coffee in their cart and then they leave your site. Ideally, we want to remind them shortly thereafter about their cart and encourage them to finalize that purchase. And that's where this abandoned cart email comes into play. Again, sending at the appropriate time for each customer, because they're shopping online at midnight, some are shopping at noon, and those times are completely different. And then here's another customer. We know they usually buy a bag of coffee after 2 months, but this customer doesn't. So at this point, we know they've churned or left our business. Now, ideally, we'd want to send them some information before they even get into this state to keep them engaged and try to encourage them to purchase again. But now they're in this churn state. Again, they've left. So we want to try to get them to come back to us. Again, those timings are different for each customer, and the message, we're just in this example saying we've missed you. Now, these are just a few scenarios and stages that each customer goes through, and there are so many other scenarios in between all of these. Also, earlier we talked about frequency on that individual level. This starts to bring up this example here where if someone is churned or they've left our business, we don't really want to be bothering them with tons of email. So we'd want to be sending to these people far less frequently than we would to someone who's more engaged with our brand. For these people, we want to send just enough to stay top of mind with them. So really, how is it possible to communicate on this individual level like we're suggesting? Well, this is where your email data really comes into play. And if you're doing this with traditional marketing, that means you're digging into the data manually and sifting through all of the data, trying to figure out what it means and then what are the next steps to do with that. And it means continually using that data to drive segmenting your list, moving people from this stage into this stage and this list and all of that. And when you're doing it manually, it can increase your sales, but it also gets very time consuming and inefficient for your business. And that means you're missing out on some money that you could be making simply by optimizing your email process. And that's where the real value of email or Constant Contact's Ecommerce Pro comes in. It does a lot of the hard stuff for you, which is why I'm excited to be talking about it. So let's dive in there and let's talk more about Ecommerce Pro. First, I want to note that Constant Contact's Ecommerce Pro only works with shopping carts like Shopify, BigCommerce, Magento, and WooCommerce. And ideally, we suggest that you have a list of 5,000 or more contacts. It integrates with your online store in order to pull in data regarding your sales and your website, as well as your email marketing data to make these predictions that we're talking about. And it'll make a lot more sense as we go through these next sets of features. It does all of this by using that AI and predictive analytics to learn from everything that's happening. That means the more you use it, the more transactions you get, and the more contacts you have, the more it actually learns. It's continually learning from your customers and what's working and what's not. It's basically like a big marketing brain that auto-organizes stages of each of your customers in order to send the right content, and it understands where your customers are at in their journey real time with you. And because of this, I do want to note that it takes about 3 months of use in order to be fully optimized for best results. So let's dive in and talk about some of the features and emails you can send and how it works. And I'm going to talk about them in 3 pillars. The first pillar being stages and automation. So in this Ecommerce Pro, you're going to still have segments, but like I said, each customer moves through the stages in the journey at their own pace. Those are based on their actions, their purchases, or even inactions with your emails and online store. So you're going to have what we're seeing on the screen here. They're called stages that keep track of where your customers are at with your business. Now, I want to note that you can still send regular newsletters and promotions just like you would in traditional marketing tools, but you can really add in this new layer with stages and automation. And that's because the system finds out what stage each customer is in and sends them the appropriate information at the right time. So on the screen, we see most of the stages that are included with the package, and we'll dive into most of these and what they mean and the benefits for you as well. But before we do that, I just want to talk about how you would send your traditional newsletters, giveaway emails, and promotional emails. And there are two ways that you might do that. The first is called a smart blast. This really uses all of this AI technology behind the scenes in order to calculate the likelihood of a conversion for the different stages. And then it targets the customers with your main message and customizes it so it makes it most likely for them to convert. Now, it's going to allow you to target all of your users, but it sends them different emails that are most appropriate for them, and it's going to optimize the frequency between other emails that are happening and then the timing for each person, so it hits their inbox when they're most likely to open. And then there's what's called Promo Blast, and this is fairly similar, but it uses a little less AI. These are best used to reach certain groups of people that absolutely need to receive an email regardless of the stage they're in. Now, the promotional blast is ideal for promotions that may sell out quickly or anything that is really time sensitive. And this means that all users are going to receive the same email at the same time, kind of what you're already used to, what you've been doing with if you're using regular Constant Contact or some other traditional marketing tool. Now, the next stages we're going to talk about are emails that get sent based on where people are at in the journey, making each email really personalized and relevant to each person. And we're going to see a lot of examples here. This part is really my favorite part, and this is where we get to add in the extra layer that I've been talking about beyond those traditional newsletters and promotions you're sending. So let's talk about each of these, and we'll start with this welcome stage. When someone joins your mailing list, it's really important that you make a good first impression and put a friendly face out there with your welcome email. It also allows you to introduce your brand, your products, simply thank them for visiting your site. And this is great because in Ecommerce Pro, it's going to send shortly after they join your list when they're most engaged with your brand. Another stage after that is called new to your brand. It's another important stage that allows you to follow up with users who've received the initial welcome emails, but haven't converted yet. This is where you want to encourage them to really make their first purchase with you because, again, they're still in the welcome stages with your business. They're highly engaged with your brand. Now, the new to brand stage is a great place to make your call to action clear, engaging, and then link back to your website. Now, you can also create some goodwill between your business and this new user by offering maybe a first purchase discount and really show them the perks of engaging with your emails. Now, you can use this opportunity to tell readers more about your brand as well. You might share more about your company's vision, your mission, and your values. Now, another stage here is called cart abandon emails. On average, cart abandon emails have one of the best conversion rates, and I think most of you are probably fairly familiar with these and what they do. But these emails target highly engaged users who've already expressed an interest simply by adding an item to their cart. So here with an abandoned cart email, you want to remind them simply about their items and encourage them to finalize their purchase. Really something simple like what we see here. Next up is the browse abandon stage. On average, this stage is one of the most profitable stages. These emails, again, target highly engaged users after they viewed a product on your website, but they didn't put it in their cart or finalize that purchase. This is a great place to provide some personalized product recommendations that are going to help to drive a large share of your conversions. And these emails also convert well simply as reminders. So this is where you might experiment with different subject lines to bring users back to the site. I'll talk about that in just a moment. And with this stage, we do suggest avoiding special discounts or incentives because for these people, you want them to make a purchase without waiting for an email from you that includes discounts. Now, speaking of those subject lines and testing subject lines, you can see an example of this when you're setting up your emails. You're going to be able to enter multiple subject lines, and the AI is going to A/B test those subject lines behind the scenes and determine which one works best over time. Now, if you're having trouble writing subject lines, I like this part over here on the right side of the screen as well. We have what's called smart subject lines. So what you'll do is you'll start by entering a subject line, probably the best thing you can come up with, or maybe choose a line that stands out from your email and paste it in there. When you click search, it's going to populate a whole list of suggested subject lines. And what you can do is simply add them into your A/B test so that it'll test them against other subject lines. Now, next up is the stage called search abandon. These emails will trigger 24 to 48 hours after a user has searched for something on your website. And it's going to send based on the user's best time of day prediction as well. That's really a great feature with this. Now, these emails typically convert well due to targeted users' engagement levels and the accuracy of the recommendations that get populated in these emails. In the search abandon email, you want to address the customer directly. And that's where we suggest using words like you or your, and really focus on strong branding that encourages them to support your brand and your mission. And this is a stage where I would also suggest avoiding additional discounts and incentives. Now, next up is the follow-up stage, and these emails get sent 3 days after a customer makes a purchase from you. This is where you want to define your ongoing relationship with your customers, and you can do that by expressing your appreciation for their purchase. You'll want to solidify your brand message and prepare them for future purchases. So in addition to thanking them, you might invite them to follow your brand on social media. You might send them more information about your products and what makes them stand out against your competitors, as well as ask them to rate your product online. And again, as with many of these emails, you want to drive people back to your website so that they'll continue their shopping experience with you. Now, in this follow-up stage, it's a great idea to reward their loyalty by including incentives. And you might even think about upselling your customers to encourage repeat business. Now, this next stage is what we call buy again. This is where you can send users a reminder email to refill or replace a product. So this is what we saw, or another example of what we saw from the coffee example earlier. But this one is from our customer, Sterling Soap Company. They're able to remind people to purchase their soaps and other items so that they don't run out. Now, this email should be designed to drive repeat business of the same product based on, their repeat purchase rate. So for this stage, it's suggested that you have a strong focus on branding that encourages regular use of your products. And if it's available, it's a good opportunity to drive your users to a subscription model if you have it. Now, if you're going to include an incentive here for people to buy again, we definitely suggest keeping it small so that you avoid diminishing the value of your products at full price. The next stage I want to talk about here is ready to buy. This is where you can identify established users who are really engaged with your brand. You might give them a small push to drive an additional purchase. Now, users are going to become eligible for these emails simply by remaining active on your website or engaging with your brand through your emails or online store. And having a clear call to action is really important here. Again, drive people back to your website. And then also based on your incentive strategies, this is where you might also include a dynamic incentive. Speaking of dynamic incentive, let's talk about that and what that means. In many of these stages we've talked about today, incentives can be a good idea to encourage people to convert or finalize their purchase with you. So in Ecommerce Pro, you get to avoid unnecessary discounts with incentives that can be dynamically populated and tested to find the best performing one. You can set up dynamic incentives for people who are less likely to convert without one, and that way you aren't giving incentives to everyone. The goal here is to provide the smallest incentive to create the highest amount of conversions for your business. So it does the work for you. This is another important stage called at risk of leaving. At risk of leaving customers are notoriously difficult to win back, but they are 2 to 5 times more likely to purchase than a churned customer when we get to that kind of end state where they've left your business. Now, you can use this stage, the at-risk stage, to reach out and engage with your customers before they completely disconnect from your brand. It's definitely a good idea. This is your opportunity to really thank your readers for being valuable customers. You might provide unique and interesting content that encourages them to go back to your website and see what they might be missing. Now, the at-risk stage is what eventually turns into this churn stage. We talked about it a bit before, but basically your customers who don't make a purchase again. Now, these emails are your last-ditch effort to win customers back to your brand for another purchase. Now, this is a stage where you'll definitely want to do some testing. We suggest creating multiple templates and again, test out different subject lines like in that example I showed you earlier. That way you can optimize your emails here for the best open and click rates. Now, you're also going to want to use targeted language that shows appreciation and draws them back toward another purchase with you. And this might mean that you do want to include a discount here as well, at least test it out. Now, in the stages are what are called birthday and anniversary emails, and some of you are probably familiar with these as well. But birthday emails are where you can reward your customers, maybe include a gift or a coupon that makes them feel special. These emails do tend to be high performing and they're sent to customers who have a birthday in your database. In these emails, you'll want to use some celebratory and thankful messaging to make them feel special on their birthday. Who wouldn't love that? You might even offer some sort of incentive here or that gift like I was talking about. And if you do, include a time frame so that you can create a sense of urgency, encourage them to treat themselves for their birthday. Then we have what are called anniversary emails. These send each year on the anniversary of each customer's account creation, so the date that's in the database for them. Now, you can use this to celebrate your customers and thank them for being a part of your success. These emails typically convert well, so you want to continue building the relationship with them through personalized messaging. So in the content, you're going to want to strengthen your message through maybe some personalized memories of their interactions with your brand. And this is simply another place that you might incorporate a free gift or one of those predictive incentives that we talked about before. And of course, be sure to reinforce your brand image and make sure it reflects on your brand and they recognize who it's coming from when they open the email. Now, the great thing about all of these emails in these stages is that you're going to set up the content and the system is going to include relevant product recommendations for each person. And that's going to be based off of what they viewed or purchased on your site. Now, the product and the product images and the information is automatically going to pull in from your website with the integration, and that makes it super easy and time consuming for you. Now, people will receive the same email like we see here, customer A and customer B, but it's going to be customized for them, which I think is pretty cool. Now, here's just one example of how Sterling Soap Company is using technology to send personalized content for each user. These emails have the same text up here at the top, and then the predictive recommendations are what show up down here at the bottom. Those again are based off of what the user has viewed, and it also shows similar products based on that. Now, here's just another example I want to show you of the levels of personalization that can happen. This is another one from Sterling Soap Company and how the system personalizes messages. It does it based off of the stages, those recommendations, and even demographics. This email on the left is what we saw earlier, but it's a pretty standard abandoned cart email, similar layout and everything like this. This goes to everyone in the US who are in their shipping area. And of course, all of the products down below are those dynamic, relevant product recommendations. The other one I want to show you here on the right is for an international company. So Sterling Soap Company does not ship internationally, so the system has identified that they're out of the shipping area. And so they receive this email telling them where they can buy from some of their resellers around the world. Now, the second pillar is all of the analytics, which is important to really helping you make smarter marketing decisions all around. With Ecommerce Pro, the system automatically uses the data to optimize those emails, like we've seen in a few examples. But when it comes to data, here's just one example of the data that you will be able to see and analyze yourself. You'll be able to see revenue generated from each email or stage. And then there's deliveries, conversion rates, open and click rates, which are pretty standard. Now, you're going to be able to understand each campaign's performance. There's going to be top products and categories over the past 14 days, and also key trends that you can look out for. Now, this particular example is looking at the overall performance of each of those stages that we mentioned, and it is not for an individual campaign's performance, but you'll still have all that information in there as well. Now, the great news is that if you don't have time to dig into your reports, which I'm sure a lot of you don't, you really don't have to worry too much about it. That's because AI is taking all of that data behind the scenes and using it to optimize your campaigns on your behalf. Now, let's go back to that common question we hear about frequency. We've talked about it quite a bit. Now, someone who's at risk or even churned is certainly not going to appreciate those emails every day or every week. We want to send to them just enough to stay top of mind with that. So if we look at this example, this is going to be for a particular customer for their profile. And we would see that the frequency for them is showing currently as often as possible. It's going to show all this other data as well as the life cycle state they're in, the product recommendations, and what they last purchased. So it's just keeping track of all of that and doing a lot of the work for us. Now, another thing I want to point out is that you're going to be able to make smarter decisions in other areas of your online advertising as well. You're going to have what's called smart segments. That's what we see on the screen here. You're going to have smart segments for a lot of different groups, but two I want to point out are your ready to buy customers and the ones that are labeled as high value to your business. These are very important to your company. You're going to be able to easily identify them, grab lists and whatnot, and use that information so that you can continue finding more subscribers and customers like them with paid ads. For example, you can create an audience that looks like them to find your best customers on social media, Facebook, as well as Google. So that's pretty exciting. The third pillar I want to talk about today is support and getting started. Really, we're here to provide you with support all along the way and help you get started. Now, as an attendee of our webinar today, we do have a special offer for you. We are offering our starter package for free. So if you request a demo of Ecommerce Pro from today's webinar and sign up, that means we're going to take care of the heavy lifting for you to get you up and running quickly. What does that mean? That means that you're going to have 3 to 4 calls with our team that get you started. And then after that, keep in mind, you will be able to call or schedule a time whenever you have questions or need help with something. And with that starter package, we're going to set up the technical integration with your e-commerce tool. And I know that's something that a lot of people struggle with. So we'll help you out there. We're going to set up some sign-up tools that help you to continue to grow your list. We're going to create an email template for you that you can use in all of these stages and in those promotional emails as well. And then we're going to set up 4 stages that really get you going quickly. Now, before we get to all of these great questions I see coming in, I just want to recap quickly. Selling more online really means treating people as individuals with the right information at the right time and, again, the right frequency. And it really allows you to reach the next best level. You can do that by using AI and predictive analytics, really improve your results and allow you to efficiently use the power of data. Using Ecommerce Pro, Constant Contact's Ecommerce Pro really saves you time with that segments and automation feature while acting on insights and trends that are happening to really improve your results and optimize your campaigns. So we're going to have Rachel, who's helping us out behind the scenes, share a link in the chat window. Now, a demo is really where you can talk with a rep to see how this can work for your specific business. So I would definitely recommend that. And while Rachel is doing that, I just want to remind all of you, in order to use it, you'll want to be using Shopify, BigCommerce, Magento, or WooCommerce. And ideally, we suggest that you have a list of 5,000 or more contacts. Now, pricing starts at $195 a month, and keep in mind it's based on the number of contacts. And if you have questions about how that works and stuff, we can address it here with Matt in a minute. And then Matt would also suggest that you sign up for a demo as well so that we can talk about that specifically with you. Now, if you want to take advantage of that starter package, make sure you're filling out that demo form. And if you happen to miss it today, we'll be sharing it in the follow-up email. All right, so we're going to get to those questions here in just a moment. Before we do that, one last thing is when we close out of the webinar today, a survey is going to pop up on your screen. And I'd really love it if you take just a minute or two to answer 2 simple questions and tell us what you thought about the webinar today. All right. Matt, if you want to hop on here.
Can you hear me, Steph? There we go.
I can hear you just fine. Perfect.
Awesome. Hello, everyone.
So I was hoping you might be able to kick off this Q&A and talk a little bit more about the pricing and how that works. One question I've seen in the past that maybe we should address is, do you charge by the number of sends?
No, it's going to be by contact here. So it's going to be very similar to the core constant contact, and it's broken down by how many contacts you have, and the price includes everything as far as the AI goes, the segmentation goes, the support goes. That's something that constant contact is always good at, is simple, simplistic pricing.
Awesome. So let's get in here to some of these other questions. Let's see. So how many cart abandonment messages get sent?
So it depends how you have it set up, but what the majority of our clients have is a series of emails that get sent over the course of as little as 2 weeks, as long as some people have it send over a month. So it really, you have access to sort of set that how you want. The main thing is it will automatically send when someone cart abandons or browse abandons or search abandons, and it'll also have those product recommendations, which that's what people really love, is not only are you sending the cart abandonment, but you're also sending like items that other customers have bought that item. So that's where the people that are already doing cart abandonment, they've seen a huge increase in revenue with the product recommendations. And then just people that aren't doing cart abandonment, that is one of the first things that we always recommend turning on, because that's a huge revenue driver.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely one of those that has the highest conversion. Now, the other thing that I want to address here is, I believe in the, can you change the how often, or say if someone abandons their cart, can you change that window before it sends out for the first time?
Yep, absolutely. So some companies have it set to 24 hours later, some want it sent a couple hours later. So yes, you have that ability to set that manually as far as when that first one goes out. We also have the ability, and you touched on it a little bit, when you're sending that out, you have the ability to customize the incentive. So some companies don't like discounting at all on cart abandonment. Some people like discounting, they don't want to lose the conversion, so they'll go up to like 20% or 30%. And that's something that's dynamic that can be run from the AI, which really has saved just the margin for the companies, because if someone doesn't need a 20% off, they might just need, a reminder of, hey, you forgot this, then it will just send a reminder, or even free shipping, versus giving a 10 to 15 to 20% off.
Awesome. And in terms of that timing, can you adjust the timing based off of when the other emails send in the other stages as well?
Yeah, so the software is smart enough to only send to someone as much as they are engaged. So let's say that's where that smart send comes in play. Let's say you are sending an email out to your full list and you use that smart send. It will not send that email that day if you're getting a cart abandonment. So it is smart enough to adjust and send the higher generating revenue email to your customers, so they're not going to oversend.
I love that. Yeah, we don't want to oversend, we don't want to undersend. So there was a question from Natalie that I think we could address for everyone. Natalie says, I don't have a lot of persons on my email list. Is there a way to get additional persons added?
Yes, so there's an awesome list grow tool. And this is another thing that people absolutely love that are on Pro is when you start building your list, you can do lookalike audiences for your high valued customer, your longtime customers and ready to buy customers, and you can do lookalike audiences and just sync it straight up to Google or Facebook and grow your list that way. And that has, again, most people that we talk to before they come, they're sort of on a spray and pray method of, I'm just going to spend $100 or whatever amount and try to grow my list. And with this, you can get a lot more pinpoint and accurate of, instead of just growing your list to grow it, you can grow it with high valued customers. And that's ultimately what we're always trying to do is we want high valued customers that are engaged. They're going to spread word of mouth, and that's how businesses continue to grow.
Definitely. And you'd want to create like a lead ad. Is that what you're referring to would probably be the best option there?
Yep, you would do a lead ad, but you can actually target the people with that lead ad. You know who to target as opposed to just guessing your demographics or geographical area or whatever, sort of method that most people are guessing at.
Definitely. If you know your high value customers, you want to find more people who look like them for sure. And that's a great way
Absolutely.
to do that. So the next question I want to address here is, does the cart abandon email only work if your retail store uses Shopify?
It needs to be one of those stores that you mentioned. So the Shopify, BigCommerce, WooCommerce, Magento, it needs to be one of those for this software to work properly because it needs to be able to talk back and forth, see what your customer's browsing, what they've put in their cart, and how to correctly identify what sort of stage your customer is in.
Awesome. So I see a question here about how does the price drop function work? Is it automatic if a customer goes to my website and looks at a particular item that gets marked down?
Yeah, so the price drop in item back in stock is awesome for people that have a large inventory or a lot of SKUs, and even if it's just 10 or 15 SKUs, whenever you are dropping price on your Shopify store, Shopify is the biggest, so we'll just stick with that. If you go onto your Shopify store and cut the price and drop it, the software automatically knows who has looked at that item, who has browsed it, who has searched it, and will send that email automatically for you. So you're not even having to, create the email, save the, the product image in a library and then upload it and all that stuff. It's happening for you, and it's tracking at all times who is looking at it, which is huge for items out of stock, because normally people will continue to search and buy, but that's something where you can now send that item out and still get purchases. So it just helps business owners and marketers so much, because you're not having to think or create that email. That email's there and is just automatically going to be sent out.
That's awesome. That sounds so simple and saving all of our customers a lot of time. Now, how do you segment the most and least engaged subscribers? How do I know who those people are in my CC reporting? That would be in a smart segment, if I'm correct, right?
I'm sorry, ask the question one more time, Steph.
How would you be able to find your most engaged subscribers and your least engaged subscribers?
So when you're using the Pro package, this is one of the best things. It's one of the questions we always get is like, how complicated is this? Because we go through quite a bit, especially, you've just gone over a lot. And it's very complicated on the back end, but it's super easy for the user. And that's what's awesome about it, is out of the box, when someone connects with the Pro package, it's going to take all your old order history. So if you've had a Shopify store for 2 years or a year or 6 months, every single order it's going to bring over and start to identify people and what sort of segment they're in. It's also automatically, again, it's connected to your website. It's always tracking when someone goes to your website, what they're searching on, what they're browsing. So it's dynamic in those segments. And that's where people really see, that's where people are seeing the success with this, is even if someone is diligent marketer and they have segments, those segments are usually fixed segments based off what someone has done in the last month or so. These are dynamic segments. So when someone is going to the website, that's going to change if whether they're engaged, slightly engaged, really engaged, what they're looking at, who they are, or if they're ready to buy or not ready to buy, right? So it's always calculating all these metrics on the back end and all these data points on the back end, and yet you have a dashboard and you can see all your segments out of the box of who's engaged, who's somewhat engaged, who's not engaged, who's at risk of leaving. You have all that information for you all at any time. And that's where even through COVID, all of that stuff changed. People's time of receiving emails, of looking at emails, everything has changed. People's buying habits have changed. And this is dynamic enough to change and be able to change on the spot, on the minute, as opposed to reacting once revenue is down. So that's where this has really saved a lot of e-commerce people and people switching over to e-commerce that had brick and mortar, being able to help them understand who their customers are, how engaged they are, and how we should be interacting with those customers.
That's so awesome that it's retroactive if you've been using, let's say, Shopify for so long and you've got all that data and you can really start using it to your benefit.
Yeah.
How many stages are there?
So there's up to 18, but most people start off with 4 to 6 stages and then sort of grow from there depending on what you're doing. I don't know if we have a single customer that uses all 18 because some of them are a little specific. So I would say 6 to 8 standard stages is what the majority of people use, and then there's different segments depending on your type of business and specific business stages that sometimes help.
Awesome. Yeah, I know we've had a few conversations on our team with some of these pro customers, and I've seen some of them are just using different stages because their business is a little different, or the Sterling Soap examples, they don't want to use those dynamic incentives. They don't want someone to receive a discount, whereas someone else is paying full price. So that makes a lot of sense in there. So, all right, let me see if we've got any more questions in here. All right, we'll give everyone a couple more minutes. I think we've got them all at this point, but we'll hang around for just another minute or two. If you have any final questions, be sure to put them in there so that we can get them addressed for you. Again, when we close out of the webinar today, please just take a minute or two and tell us what you thought about the webinar. It really gives us some great feedback. And also, in order to take advantage of that starter package, be sure to fill out that demo request form. It is the link that Rachel shared in the chat window a bit ago. And you should be able to scroll in there if you can't find it. If you happen to miss it or you didn't save it when we close out, it will be in the follow-up email as well. So, and Matt, thank you so much for being here to answer all these questions for us.
Absolutely,
very
my
helpful.
pleasure.
Just scrolling in here and making sure we didn't miss any. And again, that demo is really the best place if you want to address, talk about pricing for however many contacts you have. And also, Matt's team is the one who's spearheading all of those calls, so they'll be able to take any knowledge and questions you have today and really show you the power of how it can work for you and provide suggestions for your specific business while you're on that call. All right, so I think we've got them all. I don't see any other questions coming in, so I'm going to go ahead and close out of this session. I want to thank you all so much for joining us for the webinar today, and keep a lookout on in your inbox for the email with the link to the recording, again, the link to the demo request form. And thanks again, Matt, for joining us. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Bye now.
Thank you all. Bye.